Hey everybody, it's Jorik. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well and loving life. Today I wanted to talk about something that I've been meaning to for some time. It's a topic of one of my favorite movie characters as well as novel characters, and that is James Bond. And you may have seen, I'm sure all of you have probably seen some of the movies, if not all of them, throughout the decades. But some of you may not realize that some of the inspiration for what became James Bond and Ian Fleming's mind kind of started and was molded right here in Lisbon, Portugal. So what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of insight to Ian Fleming and why I say Lisbon, Portugal, and then go into some of the shooting locations for the sixth installment in the Bond franchise, which was on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It was George Lazenby's one and only time in the Bond character, and part of that film was shot right here in Lisbon, in and around Lisbon. So what I want to do is show you some of those filming locations so that if you happen to stumble into Lisbon on a vacation, you move here, or if you live in Portugal and you want to come and you want to see something maybe a little bit different, you might be able to check out one of these locations. So let's start out with Ian Fleming. He was a British spy in World War II, and he happened to spend some time here in Lisbon because at that time this was sort of the epicenter for both the Allied and Axis spy circle. So everyone met because this was considered neutral territory to trade secrets and probably gamble and do whatever else they were doing. And so while Fleming was here, he happened to stay at a place called the Palacio Estoril. It's a hotel in western Lisbon, I'll call it. Technically, I think of it as not as Lisbon, but it's the far, far western suburbs near what's called Cascais. And in this particular place, that's where he had met and cavorted with other spies, telling stories and telling lies and taking secrets to and from. And just so happens right next door to the Palacio Estoril is the Casino Estoril. And so that's very important because in his time here, it's often been stated that the creation of the first James Bond novel, which is Casino Royale, plays part of the characters and part of the novel is based upon his time that was spent here in Lisbon and some of the people that he ran into and met both at the hotel and at the casino. So it's pretty cool that the first Bond novel has some roots in Lisbon, Portugal, which is awesome. So that brings us to 1969, the filming of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So there are several places throughout the movie. I'm unable to play video clips without that getting in trouble, but I've done some screenshots of the movie so that you can see some of the places that they filmed. And so one of them was the April 25th Bridge, which I believe at the time of the filming would have still been called the Salazar Bridge. So you can see here Bond and a couple of henchmen are going across the bridge in the film. So that's one location. If you're on the bridge, you can take a photo or at least drive on it. Same place where they did that piece of the filming location. There is another place down in one of the main squares, Rocio Square, in the city center. There is a jeweler, a famous jeweler. It's been around for decades, where I believe the Bond character gets an engagement ring for his soon-to-be wife. And so that location is open, usually during the week. Sometimes on the weekends, I've noticed they have some different hours, but you can go in there and they actually have a little area that they have dedicated to their part in the Bond movie. So you can go in there and take a look at some movie stills and some behind-the-scene shots that people had taken, which is pretty cool. And when you're in the part of the high tourist area of the Baixa area in Lisbon, why not check it out if you're a Bond fan? The next place that you can go to and check out is the Palacio Frontera or Palacio Frontera. That place is just a little bit in the northwest, still in Lisbon, just outside the city center. This is a place as well that was one of the shooting locations for the movie. So I've kind of shown you just a quick screenshot of the Lazenby Bond, as well as a photo from a different angle of the location. So that's another place that you can go to and see, again, where a piece of the James Bond 1969 On Her Majesty's Secret Service was filmed. If you keep going far west and out to the coastline, you have what's called Ginsho Beach. And there are a couple of scenes that were filmed out there. And I tried to locate exactly where they were based upon watching the movie several times. And now that I lived here, I've tried to point out the spot or look for it. I'm having a hard time, but they did film in that area. And there's some stills here that you can see from that time that they spent out at Ginsho Beach. Now, the main place that you can go to is the Palacio Estoril Hotel. It's laid out very similarly to the way it was in 1969. And as you can see from the photos here, even the bellhop, and I believe he is still there, who was in the movie in 1969. I show you a photo here of him giving a key to James Bond. Well, then 50 years later, they did a 50th anniversary where they had some people back together, and that same bellhop was there with Lazenby, which is pretty cool. So I think he is still, I don't know if he's still in 2023 there, but at least as of 2019, he was. What's cool about this place, and I think if you walk through the atrium and right outside the bar area, there's these corridors of a lot of famous dignitaries that have stayed at this hotel. They actually have a receipt from Ian Fleming's time staying there in the hotel up on the wall that you can see and take a photo of. So to me, that gave me goosebumps and say, okay, he was really here, and to be able to walk the grounds and then know right outside the hotel, as I'm looking outside the hotel to the right is the casino, and to think of all of the people that he ran into that might have become characters, not just in his first novel, but in other novels along the way. It was something to kind of really take in if you're a Bond fan. If you're not a Bond fan, it might not mean anything to you, but if you are, it was a very cool thing to experience. Probably the coolest thing to experience, though, was to go into the bar, the little bar area. It seats maybe about 30 to 40 people. But when you sit down, the server gives you your menu, and you can get the 007 martini. So shaken, not stirred, of course. And when that gets delivered, they will say something about, your martini, Mr. Bond, or they'll make a reference to the movie when they deliver the martini. So they give a nice little touch, which is awesome. So that just helped because you're sitting in the bar in one of the hotels. There were a few hotels. I think one is no longer around. That was the German hotel. But this is one of the Allied hotels, and in this very room is where some of the most noted spies of World War II came and traded secrets. So over and above the Bond aspect of thing, just thinking about from a historical standpoint, the people that were here and either the lives saved or the lives that were cost by the mixing and mingling of information and trading that in this room, as well as next door in the casino. It's pretty extraordinary to think about. So for me, being a Bond fan, I wanted to make this video. I've got a few more in other places that we've been around the world, so bear with me. If you don't like Bond, skip through the video. If you do, hopefully you'll look at some of these places on the map and point them out. And if you're in the neighborhood, check them out. And enjoy your James Bond lifestyle, if you will. So hopefully as well, maybe this will trigger you to look up the movie and maybe rent the movie. It happens to be one that not many people have watched because it wasn't Connery or Roger Moore, but the On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a really, really good movie, even though it's the Bond that nobody remembers. So as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I hope you check out some of these locations. If you've been to some of them, please leave a comment below and enjoy your travels.